I'll just give time for this to go out. I'm just going to go on to my crackbook through my phone. It's quiet in the place for Liam. I'm just literally going onto my crackbook because I can't really ask Amber to do things for me because, bless the girl, she works like from stupid o'clock in the morning in Trinidad until stupid o'clock at night. So I can just see my catch up with Kell there. So I'm just going to share it to not all my pages because it'd be all fucking night, bless Amber. But it's just a catch up tonight, really. It's just it's Friday night. I'm just going to share this over to FEA. The problem with doing lives here and actually sharing them is it means it doesn't get to everybody. And good to everybody that is here, because my posts are knocked down to next to nothing at the moment because they're basically asking me to pay like £23 per post to even get it to see everybody who's here. So hello to Frederick, Amber's here. It's just more, I tend to, on a Friday, because the education system is ran by an education calendar, and because I went through the education system despite getting expelled and through college and university, and obviously raising my boys in the education system, not necessarily Aaron and Faith, and certainly not Elijah and Shiloh. Hello there, Mike. So I'm sort of pre-programmed to the education system. So literally from now, it's school holidays and everybody should be out having fun. And this is where I start splitting. And this is where life starts becoming very difficult for me. And it must be even more so for Mike, because Mike's got like 12, 13 kids. I think a bit more than that, actually. And they're all scattered all over the place. And everybody here is living in a world that doesn't exist to everybody else. So if I go outside and I sit in my garden and I interact with people, my world is very different. In fact, you should have seen the reaction I got in the shop today. Like, absolutely, like, talk about throwing me a really nasty look. And it was just because they overheard a conversation that I have with a guy who works in our local co-op here, but he's actually somebody whose life sort of plummeted as well, and he's actually a business manager and a web designer, and every time I get in there I grab him because if he was in his real world his information would be really expensive, and he's currently working in the co-op, and hence like a lot of people who've been through university and have degrees coming out their asses are pretty much working in Tesco's and co-ops and things like that. But somebody overheard a conversation about Startup Britain and the worth of Challenge Britain when it went out in the media, how much it was worth to government financially, and why when I pitched what I did, that went all the way through my local MP, all the way through to the board and the panel, and in fact the person who did it with me was asked to seat on a board government. She then became a foster carer, blah, 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 blah. A foster carer who didn't help out my children, who was one of my friends, and also at my baptism, but that's another story, being a book. The same person who owns a lot of my companies, and also the same person, let's not get on here, but this connecting dots and kaleidoscopes are happening more and more and more and more. But anyway, to anybody who doesn't know me and doesn't know why the fuck I sit here on Crackbook and talk about my life and things that probably don't make sense to people, and I'll just give you a bit of a catch up quickly for those who are either coming in to my YouTube channel or coming into my social media. Just let me 2 seconds, just down a bit of apple juice and drag my bag, just literally 2 seconds, because I'm probably just going to speak for about 6, 7, 8 minutes and just wrap something up for you. I'd have a coffee, but I've no kettle. And one thing I really, really hate more than anything, drink in front of you, I'll eat in front of you. I never used to be able to sit in front of somebody and eat, and I've had loads of fucking eating disorders. But smoking in front of somebody. Now, I hate being a smoker, and I didn't actually become a smoker. This is not me wrapping it up. This is me trying to drag a fag and talk to you and not leave you. And hang on a minute, I think I'm not. I have to keep all the doors closed in between because smoking. I really need to put a camera up there so I can see them in the bedroom, because the boys are literally sort of through that door, along the corridor and through that door. So they're on the back of the kitchen, but to get around there is like that. And because I'm smoking out the window in the kitchen, and I've never smoked in my house before, and I hate my kids ever seeing me smoke. In fact, my mum used to be a secret smoker and sneak off down the beach when we were in Barbados and stuff like that, because she never used to want me to see her smoking. So anyway, take a breath, Kelly. 2 seconds. I think it looks fucking horrible, and nothing worse than seeing a mum walking down the street with a buggy with a fag in her hand, smoking with her kids. I fucking hate it. And I was a bit of a hypocrite, because obviously I smoked while I was pregnant with babies as well. Hypocrite, learn from it. So anyway, just a quick wrap up. In 2010, I had been out of a relationship for 2000. So I got into the relationship into 2000. So before I got into the relationship with Aaron and Faye's dad, I had recently graduated from university in psychology. I had a business at the University of Central Lancashire, and it was for unity in the community. And I was basically running community events in the community. So any community event that basically brought community spirit. So whether it be with the churches, Radio 1, Rock FM, music places, blah, 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 blah. So it used to sit on the council of all of the events and things like that. And then Joe Medforth was a young lad who was murdered, and he had come from Leeds to university here, and I was course rep, departmental rep and faculty reps of the University of Central Lancashire. And the principal of the university came to me and said, look, we need somebody to basically speak on his behalf and connect with the parents. Did you know him? And I said, other than bypassing him, because he was actually in my form for BSc Honours in psychology, I said I'd only actually sort of crossed paths, because like I was a mature student with 2 kids, and they were kids. So anyway, it was the middle of exam time, and I took on the to do this, but I never expected to sort of get to know somebody so fragmented and put somebody whole at their funeral before their parents. And it was a really weird experience. I wasn't meant to go on to this, but this is what the foundations and where everything that I created come from. So people who really want to know where my true intentions come from, then this story should help you understand that. And Joe was 21. Their son previously had died at 21 in a motorbike accident. And I was dealing with a family and parents who were now grieving their second son, 21. I stole the speech from Princess Diana's death and regurgitated it, because I couldn't public speak. In fact, public speaking was a no. I was the one in the back, mate. You didn't catch me in camera. I wasn't speaking. In fact, the first time I ever public spoke was for an Inspire thing when I first launched the vision boards and the programme that came behind Challenge Britain and behind Step Up Britain. So the original programme that I delivered to the youth and schools and prisons and places like that to help people go from where they are to where they are, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I threw up, shat and everything. In fact, there's even a video of me going, the first ever video will probably come back to haunt me on my 90th birthday or something. But if I make it, but 100th. So I said I wanted a birthday card from the Queen, not that she'll be alive. The King, hey. Cool, I'd never get a birthday card from the King. Fucking hell, doesn't celebrate birthdays, does he? But anyway, if I live that long. But anyway, Joe was a boy, my man. He was 21. But he had, I saw it was really difficult to just sort of bring this into it, because it is quite important, really. I ended up sort of trying to have to find his friends, and I went to the university and I said, look, can I email all of his friends? And they said no, data protection didn't allow me access to the student records, blah 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 blah. So I was like, oh fuck, this is going to be a bit difficult. So I went to a shop and they said, yes, he comes in here to buy his fags. I know that he does so and so, so and so. So that then took me off to handing out condoms on the streets and talking to young people about, you know, contraception and things like that, and not having sex, basically. So then I found a group of friends there. Then from there, I found somebody who then said to try the martial arts, and I went to his martial arts place and I found a whole community that he'd actually gone and spent a lot of time with the Shaolin monks, and there was this whole world, and I kept finding these fractured parts of him, to the point that the university gave me a minibus to take his friends to the funeral, and I said, well, that's not going to be possible. I need a double-decker bus. And they said no, and I said, I'm having a double-decker bus. You are not intervening and giving me a budget on this. A young lad has come from the town, and he's had his head crushed, he's been kicked and stamped on, and the community needs to get behind this young lad right now and his funeral. I'm having a double-decker bus. So they offered me a normal bus. They said, no, I'm having a double-decker bus. And also I would like the 2 counsellors on board, and I'd like somebody there for me as well. This is more intense than you could ever know. He'd already been at the university for about just coming into his 3rd year, so his 3rd and final year of psychology. And I got the double-decker bus and we drove to Leeds, and I got everybody off the coach and I sat them on the grass outside the funeral, and I asked their mum and their dad and their sisters to come and stand with them. And I asked his closest personal friend to stand up and introduced him to the family as the person who taught him to play the guitar. And one by one, each of them stood up and said how they knew Joe. And we went to the funeral, and I had to read a speech on behalf of Preston and for the police and for the university and for the council. I was the representation for it at his funeral. I read a great speech. I read it from a written speech, but I read a quote from one of his friends about leaving a fag down for him, and his family didn't even know he smoked. And the really funny thing about it is I had to argue with the university about him graduating, and they said that we couldn't graduate somebody who had died. And I said, look, you don't understand the significance of what this boy's done for Preston in the time that he's come here, man 21. Obviously he started there at 19. And finally on the graduation day, I sat down, and then I heard Joe Mayford's sister being pulled forward, and they gave her Joe's graduation certificate, and the family were there. And when we were all over in the main ceremony hall, the family came over to my dad and thanked my dad for everything that I had done for them. But the question that I started asking was, where was the community spirit? Where was families like Joe's? In fact, his sister is in a West End, always in West End performances, and she kept going singing for Joe. And from this, unity in the community was formed. And if Pauline, if you're a sort of person who says, don't cry, honey, then I hope by the end of this you have floods and floods and floods and floods of tears, and you wake up tomorrow feeling very refreshed, because crying is really good for you. It cleanses the soul. To suppress your emotions is what causes illness, disease, mental health. To be raw and real and authentic and true with yourself and true with your emotions is how we stay grounded and firm. And it makes it very difficult when people say don't cry, and I have found that people don't know what to say to me, and it alienates me from the normal ways of the world. Not that I want to conform to the ways of the world, but it alienates me from family, friends, making new friends, because I'm very trigger happy. In fact, actually, I lost the plot with somebody the other day, and it was the wrong person. I had to ring up and apologise. Seriously, don't knock on my door as a council member and say you're here, reference a letter you sent me last week when I'm in the middle of a war, mate. So when I open that door, you will have the camera in your face and I will tell you directly. Unfortunately, it was actually the electric engineer wanting to make an appointment with me. I rang, I apologised, but it just turned out actually that her husband was someone very official in government, and she got to hear my story and she was crying by the end of the conversation. I'm going to need a tissue, just 2 seconds, I need to grab it. This is why everybody thinks I'm a cokehead. It's really funny because people keep making comments that I constantly wipe my nose, so therefore I must be a cokehead. No, darling, I cry a lot. So anyway, where was I? Yeah, so basically from Unity in the Community and Joe's thing. Also, my first day of university, they said anybody who believes in God, blah, 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 stand up. And psychology basically wanted to disprove any spiritual alignment with the world. Don't ever challenge me on God and Jesus and spiritual alignment, mate, because I went hands down. Don't ever turn around and tell me there's no God, because you're going to fall over that chair in a minute. Do you know what I mean? My karma's fast. Sorry, I really don't like what spoken. Hate it. And as a coach, I should really give up, but, stressful times and all that. Not that smoking helps that. In fact, actually increases your heart rate and actually makes stress even worse, which I should know, and I should practice what I preach. But I'm not here to preach and I'm not here to practice any of it, but I sort of am and I'm sort of not. I think I do very well at the moment, and I understand now why ex-crackheads and smackheads and drug-dependent people turn around and say, well, smoking is my last vice. So anyway, because of Unity in the Community, I then seated in the university, and it was just coming up to September, and we were just about to launch a whole new set of programs, and I'd been working with Radio 1 and the big weekend within Preston, and it was my birthday as well. And I've said this on a story before. I found the world really difficult, really hard to be in, very showy, very false. I was a netball player-ish at the time. I'd not long been out of a wheelchair, so I hadn't played netball for a while. And nails is very important in the world that I live in. Like, you can't bite your nails and stuff like that. It's a sign of non-self-discipline and stuff like that. And it's very showy, it's very cliquey, and it's a high gay community. It's a high... So's MPs, by the way. Most MPs have gay secretaries or old ladies. They either have a gay secretary or an old lady. That's how I know who bats for who. And... where was I? Trying to take a drag of my fag. Anyway, I then met Stephen. And very, 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 very quickly, my life spiraled, really spiraled. And I came into the world of drugs and alcohol, drug clinics, and all that sort of stuff. And I hadn't dealt with a social housing life like since I was 11. And even my dad bought his home, and as a community, the community kept where we lived to a very, very, very high standard, and we lived out in the country. And as a community, we helped everybody, do you know what I mean? Because we were a council estate in the middle of the fucking woods. In fact, next to, who was it? Samantha Fox. Samantha Fox's father owned all the farmlands around us. In fact, I have a scar up the back of my leg. And you'd like to know how I got this scar on the back of my leg? One, I got a fucking salt gun right in the back of my fucking ass. And as I was running away, I used to live in Headley Down, if you ever Google it, so on Heatherlands Estate. And there's a woodlands that goes right up the top, and you go all the way through, and you can go up to all the deer and everything like that, and it takes you right away. And I used to spend a lot of time in Fox's Land. And once I was running, and literally I bounced up because he shot me in the ass, and I put my foot down on some barbed wire, and as I flicked it back, it tore right up the back of my leg, which is why I don't wear short skirts, and also because I have self-respect and integrity. But I don't wear shorts, any skirts lower than my knee, because I have a scar that literally, so if I'm ever dead, I have a scar that runs right up the back of my leg. So anyway, it entered me into this world that just changed my whole opinion of how people are spoken to and dealt with from a particular side of the world that I had never seen before. And even I used to drive the drug clinic up the wall, because I used to take nice little inspirational posters and go and stick it over their fucking ridiculous posters. And I used to say, come on, you're walking into what? It's a sterile fucking place. Like, it looks like a fucking space unit. It's like all white, and they have this office, and I've seen mums lose their kids just because after pregnancy they've been addicted to painkillers, and guess what they put them on? Methadone. Are you fucking numpties? Like, silly? And the association that comes with that when a mum walks in and says they're on methadone, it's not like me that goes in and says that I'm on morphine. And even I didn't know the difference between the two when I met Stephen, and I didn't know the polarities and the standards would be so different. If my experience and understanding of that sort of world was one family on the estate that I lived in, and I used to keep all my toys out when I used to go over to my mum's at weekends, and I used to let Billy Oakley pay with all my toys, and the family used to check, the door used to be open, Billy and his brothers and that were always looked after by the community. Yes, mum was out on a fucking nut and stuff, but everybody made sure that there was food, people took food in, people looked after them, and I don't know what's ever happened to the family now, but I have seen relatives of them, and should social services go in and take these kids? I saw a woman today, out on the streets, not out on the streets living, I don't know actually, because she had a couple of quite big bags with her. I did ask her, hey, are you okay? Cool. Looked more like they'd just been out for the night, maybe staying somewhere, but she had 2 kids with her. It was starting to rain. She was drunk. Friend was a bit tipsy. Where is this line where somebody has the right to come in and take your children off of you? Like, I can stand 100% with my hand on my heart and say that there was no fucking grounds whatsoever to take my kids off of me. Like, I stood in front of a police officer, and he's sort of saying to me, if you say anything, if you make a noise, then we're going to take your kids, and you're not even going to say bye to them. And I'm saying 2 seconds, but I actually have a family solicitor, mate, and I was in the middle of calling her, because me and Stephen were in proceedings, and it was in a different county, so they didn't know anything about it. And I had every right if I was being arrested by a police officer, but I wasn't being arrested. My children were being taken. I wasn't being arrested. In fact, they didn't actually even come and question me. My children were taken on the 13th of December 2012. I got 2 police officers in front of me at a hospital, and one social worker in with my kids and one in the room with me, and they're not detaining me. If I am a significant risk to my children and I have caused significant harm to my child, be it suspicion, be it, what do they say, what's the word, when it's alleged, or whether it be beyond reasonable doubt, then I should have been the one being cuffed, while the social workers took my children, and the police officers got immediate family numbers and stuff off of my thing, and then is there anywhere that my children could go that night? Being that we were living in a supported living unit at the time, and my auntie was only half a mile down the road, which was planned by us, and my son was there, who was 15, then my children could have been taken back to save the family with my 15-year-old son and my auntie in there. With the fact that there was staff and support members on site, I would have been arrested, and I either would have been then detained and committed to prison, faced a jury, and committed a crime of my children. Or I would have been questioned and released with no charge, which means I would have then been able to go back to my property. My auntie could have given me a big hug and a cuddle. My son could have cried and asked what the fuck was going on, and my children would have been tucked up in bed because no crime would have been committed, so there's no reason to remove my children. But that's not what happened. My children were taken. So why did the police arrest my children? Can you arrest children? What did my children do? Did my children cause significant harm? Is that the reason that my children were taken? Because my children had caused significant harm because Aaron wouldn't get his shoes on that day. So was he arresting my son? Because that's what it was over. It was over a 2-year-old little boy who wanted to play with his brother's Xbox game, which was COD, and it's an 18, and I said no. And he put himself into bed, in Liam's bed, going Xbox, and I was telling him to get his shoes on. He wasn't smacked, he wasn't hit, he wasn't anything that was done to him. He was just asked to get his shoes on. He was picked up by the head, as it wrote on the thing, because I'd levered him like that, because he had the duvet like this over his head. Pulled the duvet away from him, told to get his shoes on. What I couldn't do was lift him up properly because I'd slipped the discs in my back because I have EDS that apparently is the easiest condition to claim to have and is in my head. That is not in my head. It is in my physical body, just as it is in my 2 children's physical body. However, none of this was being questioned at the time. None of this was being questioned until 5 months later, after we had been in a court process, where the majority of that 26-week court process was a non-molestation order on me because I'd found my children in Prestatyn, and my son had seen me outside the window, by chance, funny enough, but also planned, strategically planned, but because I was going to Pontins. But how would have I known that Pontins just happened to be 2 roads down the road from where my children were in Prestatyn, being that I'd actually gone to Pontins when we'd been evicted from our previous property, which is why I'd gone to save the family in the first place. So why would I not go to Pontins if I was now facing another eviction because my children have been taken and now I'm a child abuser? So if I'm a child abuser who hasn't been arrested, then how can I be a child abuser? I have no criminal record of child abuse. I have no, in fact, actually, I was finally brought into the police station in January 16th. That's 3 weeks after my children were taken, and I was released with no charge. However, my children were still in a process. In that time, my children had been physically, sexually, and emotionally abused by the first foster parents. We have proof and evidence. They were only 2 and 3. Fucking God. Seriously, how the fuck is the public letting these people get away with this? I'm here day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. As long as I got battery on my phone. In fact, do you want to see? I'll show you. It doesn't actually keep all of my phone calls that I make, but you will see immediately. No, in fact, actually, Liam's been through my phone and he clears it. I've probably got notepads with people's numbers on. Yeah, right. Numbers down. I I've just literally just thrown everything into my little office account because it's Friday. And I am literally at 4 o'clock Friday. I clear everything so I can have a fresh weekend. In fact, it's annoyed me now because I've now just lost the telephone number. And I need MP Neil's telephone number for Monday morning while he's clearing his office out. I mean, even this morning I've rang and left messages on Boris Johnson's old answering machine message because he hasn't had his things changed over. So I'm completely bombarding his emails and everything that he's got to tie up from his MP status, and making sure that I'm the one on his message all the way through, because it will kick into overdrive soon. So 3 times a day I do this. And the same with Nadine. In fact, Nadine's receptionist quite likes speaking to me, so she answers the phone. A couple of others, MPs, I ring daily. In email, I'm not so great on because I tend to write books. I prefer to be really hard and direct on the phone. The problem is when people speak to me on the phone, though, I'm quite hardball, and I'm quite whenever you're leading anything or you're taking direct action on something, a great leader will always give something to blame and 2 to 3 solutions to that problem. I keep giving them a consequence to their actions. So my demand is to hold the adoption drive and all immediate proceedings within court, investigate and inspect the current system, and to restructure and reunite families. And that's basically my demands to Parliament to do with this section of my life. Don't forget, I run Step Up Britain, so I deal with homelessness, disabled stuff on transportation, and they were disabled to enabled. I do a lot of stuff in politics, parties over people, involved with End It, false adoption exposed, parent alienation, denied contact. And this is also part why the system goes so wrong, because everybody's looking at the branches on the trees and I'm looking at the root. And the root of the problem, we already know. You either follow the fruits of the spirit or you are a rotten apple, basically. So the sins. And that's as easy and as simple as life is. We as human beings, not doings, human beings, spiritual beings having a human experience. In fact, I was watching the 2 Brother Guardians with Elijah and Shiloh yesterday, and it was a really good film to remind people how we forgot about the spirit world. Our angels, our guides, people that we can call at any particular time, because they're not people, but the spiritual world exists whether we believe it or not. But it can't do anything unless you ask and speak to them personally yourself. I can pray for you. And bring people around you, but it's up to you. You can lead a horse to water, but unless I grab your fucking head and ram you down in that thing until you fucking drown, mate, but chances are, you're not going to appreciate it. And in order to walk in gratitude and be humble and peaceful and respectful and integrity and to be your true, authentic self, it takes a lot of self-control, a lot of discipline. And I'm living with very lazy people at the moment, and it's really doing my fucking nutting. I like to keep order, structure, routine, self-discipline. When you have, I got 7 kids, well 6, but 7, or 2, 3, 4, and they're all Dean's kids. Don't talk about Dean stuff. He's away at the moment. He's doing what he's doing. He does what he does, and he does it well. And that's all anybody needs to know right now. Next year, his book hopefully will come out. He is dyslexic, which I can say, so he's struggling with that sort of concept of stuff. But he's out there getting, I hope, the right people helping him along the way. But sometimes he's dependent on sleeping on benches and strangers taking him in, and sometimes it's the right people and sometimes it's not, and it's up to him to discern and deliver that, and I have to trust that, you know, he's guided in the right direction. Sometimes he gets distracted, sometimes he doesn't, but I know he's always got me and the kids, you know, in his heart, and in all of his kids, everything that Dean does is for his family. I know his dream one day is to be able to go and buy his mum and dad a house, and, you know, be able to bless his brothers and sisters, of which there are many of them, and build his school, and that's pretty much all he thinks about. He's autistic as well, so he's not stopped. People seem to think he's been some form of lone ranger, just pedalopping around. They seem to think he's been taking a lot of drugs, actually, but Dean's probably one of the cleanest DJs you'll ever meet. But we've got to remember is the Lord is strapped to Dean's back. And yes, he has some Humpty Dumpty moments, and yes, he loses his rag with people, and he doesn't actually lose his rag, he just stands up for himself, and he stands up for himself the same way I do. You come through my door to touch my kid, you go out with a bullet to your head. It's as simple as that. And Dean is the same. He says, you touch my family, that's the way you deal with things. Sometimes people have done stuff in Dean's family, and sometimes Dean's family don't necessarily know why something's happened to somebody, but Dean is usually the person to sort it out. He moves very, very silently. He is very discreet. He doesn't like having a public life. He hates having a public life. In fact, even at the event that we went to the other day, he makes it very clear, you bring that camera to my face and I'll shove it where the sun don't shine. And he's very stern like that. He says he's not here to, you know, mollycoddle people. He's here to take direct action, and he's here to form a whole new society and take his bloodline back and restore his family, who is also from, you know, an adoption. Yet do we know whether this is forced or handed over, but it comes from another line, and he does slightly talk about it. It's why he was Dean Stockley. He's now Dean Samuel, because he took his bloodline name back, and he's on a mission and a search to find out where he belongs in the world, really. And me as his partner, I enable that. He can either go and get a job and do what everybody else does, or he can get out there and actually, at 42, get his album done, get his compilation done, get his booklet done, and sign and seal. Wow, how many years in the music industry? 25 years, 26 years. 26 years as a dancer, a DJ, an MC. He'd make a great comedian. He'd make a fucking brilliant comedian, stand-up comedy. He'd be fucking brilliant at it. Actor, model, he's done it all. It's just like me. My life crashed to parent alienation, well, not parent alienation, forced adoption, which is parent alienation, and his crashed to parent alienation. You know, his daughter is a very famous runway model and actress as a child, and so is his son. I've mentioned a few things before, and I just feel that my time and effort could be better spent in families reunited from this particular point forward, and I feel that I would get a better reception from Parliament and government by coming in from a different angle, while other people, and I do believe Katie is rocking it out there. She seems to be doing really, really, really well, and so do a few other people who've come along sort of in the last year or two. I've only been here 6 years since I broke my gag. So I broke my gag July, on the 17th of July, 2013, outside Downing Street. And then I went to the royal birth and filmed for Italy, Russia, a few other places. Russia, Artie came over to London from then, and a lot's happened and a lot's still going on. Stuff I can't really talk about on Crackbook because I meddle in quite a lot of worlds, including the dark web, and I exist in many planes and many realms at the moment. It's like having many fingers in many pies. if I had many dresses and different clothes, I could blend in very, very well at different places. And I know the first place I'd go in Portsmouth, sorry, I'd go straight to Wiggles, mate. Go straight to the dark, seedy club, because that's where I'm going to find the people I need right now. I believe that a lot of the parents are actually going to put these submissions in. I'm going to go on positive faith, because if I speak out that hardly any parents are going to put their submission in, therefore that is what I'm going to get. So I'm going to focus that on the 30th of August 2019, that I see in the papers by the 7th of September. Okay, let's do this. Let's go with a really strong intent. I need you all on board with this, because if anybody puts any negative into this, I have shown you the water experiment. I have shown you the science of words. I have shown you the rice experiment and the banana experiment. And I've shown you that when you set an intention and a goal, I'm skewish because obviously I'm an EDS person. Whoa! I'm actually still on one leg, funny enough. You just can't see it down here, but I actually am. Just for comfort reasons. Just because it's comfortable. As an EDS person, I just find it comfortable, because otherwise my hips are out, my backs are out. If I just stand, I'm very flat-footed. So I actually find it easier. Uncomfortably comfortable, someone once called me. Uncomfortably comfortable. That I sit in unusual positions that look unnatural, but to me, they're quite natural. I used to get told off at school all the time for sitting on chairs backwards and things. So anyway, I feel at my time we're on the 26th of July. We started on the 1st of July. I don't think getting an inquiry into the children social services over their timeframes and processes and whether or not it's affecting their jobs is not a bad going. In fact, I walked back from the shop today after talking to somebody about somebody, and I was actually quite impressed with myself. And as I was walking down the street, I was thinking, I'm quite an awesome person, really. And I was sort of, for a moment, feeling quite good about myself. And I thought, oh, get yourself in check, ego kicks in and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, do I want to think that I'm a really horrible, bad person and kick myself up the ass on a daily basis and feel really bad about myself and feel very trapped about this situation? I found 2 exits to get me out of here from today. And those 2 exits are, 1, going over to that fucking court with all of my paperwork and dumping it on their desk and saying, I need a legal advocate now, and just say, let's get this shit done. Or I can't quite get into my car at the moment because I've got a unit in there that I can't quite get out by myself. I've asked a few people here and everyone's got back problems. I've got 2 storage units downstairs that are a pain in the ass. I've got my whole hallway plugged up with stuff. Dean's stereo, unit mixing stuff and speakers have found it halfway to the studio, but not quite to the studio because I don't have a van. And he's managed to get it picked up and it's still at his mate's, but he can't get it to the next stage. Other equipment is still in Bristol. Other equipment is still in Brighton. Wrong way as well. Yeah, no, the right way around. I think there's a few things over in Spain and France. And we're sort of really staggered at the moment. And it's really crazy because I'm trying to do stuff. And then, like, you're live right now. To me, it's silent. But to you, because I listened to one of my lives on a thing earlier on, and all I can hear is the fan in the background. Well, if this was a filming for a documentary, I can't have that shit. It's like, I can't have that. To do what I need to do at the moment. Let me just say something before I go. I usually say I do about an hour, and I've been here 45 minutes now. I usually say I do about an hour. And just to sort of wrap up. So Friday, 4 o'clock. I start on a Monday morning. So Monday morning motivation. Wednesday wisdom. Friday, I finish strong on a Friday. And I'm in a world of people in my normal world, my Kelly peers and people, and the people where I spend my normal life, that I haven't quite stepped properly back in, but we're still here. They're still here on Crackbook. There's a couple of people here still overseeing and watching, and just texting my phone and saying we're here. But it's a very, very different mindset. And this is why I need you to really, really stick with me if I say this and I go with this. And I'm going to go for the 7th. 7th and the 11th of September. They're the 2 dates I'm going to go for. The 7th of September, the 11th of September, and the 23rd of September. 11th of... Fuck, where's a pen? I need a pen. New pen. 7th, 11th, 23rd, and obviously the 3rd. So they're the dates in September that I am going to put all my energy, all my faith, all my power, resources, angels, and absolutely everything. One with circle, everybody that's in red will daisy chain on this particular day. You didn't think you're going to see what happened to Donald Trump coming now, did you? How quick were they? Like, how fucking quick did you see it? If you haven't seen what happened to Donald Trump on the day that he was made president by Greenpeace in their red, green in red, then please do have a look at it. Literally, just as he was coming out from the Queen, they fucking shot out the road, and they didn't get a chance to connect properly. But literally, they all went to connect. And obviously, we're also at the point as well where we're getting things made to literally collect and snap. That's it. So they'll be snapped. And if these can be made quick enough, then hopefully. Because don't forget, Wes is still around. Even though you don't see him, Wes is still around. The guys from Wake Up are still around, apart from one who died at his funeral this week. Wake Up Bolton is still around. All the guys from Leeds and Rotherham are still around. Manchester guys are still around. Leeds guys are still around. London's guys are still around. Dean's in London now. In fact, pretty much, if he's not here, he's in Leeds, Bristol or Brighton. Done a bit of Leeds this year. Done a bit of Manchester and Liverpool. Didn't do a bit of Liverpool. Yeah, I did Liverpool. Obviously comes to Preston with me, but Leon's here now. So I just feel that the energy and resources of everything at the moment, everybody needs to drop out of all the groups that are against social services. We're not going to win that way. We're not going to win what we need to achieve, which is in my line of this and what I am leading in this. If you're not with me, then I don't know, go do what you got to do. But that is half of the battle, and that's half of the problem. The reason that I say we must halt the adoption drive and suspend all things is because if we can get that to happen, we've already put a spanner in the works. That is them agreeing that there is a problem that has to be looked at. If we can get enough cases that are currently in proceedings right now to get all of these letters in, now we are under a new MP, PM. Yeah, PM. Do you remember what PM stands for? I'm not talking about Prime Minister, but you remember what PM was? Then, and also PM me in here, private message, blah, 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 blah. So don't forget, he's now being audited now. Not audited, he's being indicted because he has apparently illegally emailed people in his presidency to gain money and funds. I think what he's done is very clever. However, in it, he has released his entire manifesto for all of this. So he's lost now immediately because the other side will come in and completely trump that whole side. I need the people to understand something right now. We in the UK are heading for a massive catastrophe. We can't rely on our government. We have to rely on us as communities. And I was walking around where I live right now, and there's no reason why our community, I was even thinking of actually just pulling everybody together out here tomorrow and just sort of saying, look, we the people have got to sort this mess out and get in there on Monday morning and go and tell our council what's happening. And if not, then we pull back all of our service charges and our council tax until they agree to do what they need to do. There's probably nearly 6,000 people living, you know, in this little island, probably even more than that. I don't know. I should have a look at the population of Portsmouth. If I can pull one island together like that, and if everybody can do it in their own cities and their own towns, and if we, the people, can get out and make sure that when this transfer happens, they're saying that we're going to exit Brexit on, they call it exit Brexit, it's just a nickname for what's going on. But they say we're going to do this on Halloween night on the 31st of October. It is one of the most spiritual nights ever in the history of the world. All Hallows Night. It is the great forces of dark and evil, and it is one of the most unpowerful and powerful evenings of every night. It was actually the night that I moved in to save the family, funny enough, and my children were taken literally before 2 months later. Less than 2 months, 6 weeks, probably about 6 weeks of being there. So we, the people, have to take back our own heart, minds and souls, and that means get in alignment with who you truly are, what you're about, what you stand for, what you believe. And I always ask you these questions. Who are you here to serve, and why? And what are your values, what are your beliefs, what's your mission statement? What's your message? And if you were going to die tomorrow, what would be your legacy? What would you want to leave behind, and who to? What would you want? What impact on the world would you want to make? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to leave a mark on the world. There's nothing wrong with wanting to leave the world a better place just because you were there. There's nothing wrong with actually having some moral integrity and self-respect about yourself and not following the crowd to do whatever everybody else is doing. And there's nothing wrong with saying no, you don't want to do something. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that you've been completely and utterly blindsided and lied to and manipulated and conned and controlled, and it's okay that you haven't understood that until this point. Or maybe you're starting to wake up to it and understand it, and you're starting to realize that actually right here, right now, you don't have to be sitting here listening to me. Did you know that? You have a choice. You're choosing to sit in front of me and listen right now. You're choosing to have this playing and influencing your mind right now. So you choose each day to do what you choose to do. The choice that you're being given right now has confined you through an education system, and the education and the knowledge that you've been given, I can tell you straight away, if you went to a comprehensive school, you certainly weren't given the education of somebody who went to a private school. My sisters went to a private school. My brothers went to comprehensive. Me, I went to comprehensive and homeschool. Well, only because I got expelled and I was in foster care, so I had home duty for a bit. I got 5 hours a fucking week. But at the end of the day, straight away, the hobbies and interests are different. What comprehensive school had PE, you got maybe one trip to go and see maybe a castle or something a year, or a museum, and you got to, what else did you get to do? You got to have a summer fete, and maybe if you were lucky like me, you got to compete for the school and travel around the schools. Or maybe you did do a hobby, and that hobby then took you at weekends on Saturday to other places that you just saw the band camp and then came home. But if you went to a private school, then you probably were 4 or 5 hobbies. You'd have probably gone snowboarding in the summer, you'd have probably, in the winter, you'd have gone sailing in the summer, you would have had an expanded education, you'd have taught more languages. In school, you were offered French, Spanish, or Italy. In fact, it then got dropped. In fact, actually, when Labour came in, they actually took all languages off the compulsory for comprehensive schools for by not being bilingual. A lot of other fact. Do you know what? My neighbour's been laughing at me tonight. I've been out picking dimps up, and I have no pride when I do it. It's funny, and I'll fucking laugh my head off. And they even actually leave them out there for me. It's really funny. So no, I don't spend money on Becky. I can even prove it if you want. Would you like to see the dips? Seriously, my mother would be disgusted. My son thinks it's fucking vile, but sometimes he runs out of Becky, and he's once gone and done it, and he can't. He's mortified. But there has been times I've had it shaded on the side, and he's ended up pinching a bit off me. But hey, low standards and all that. A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. But anyway, 6 minutes until my hour is up, and I can't roll a flag right now. I rolled it enough time. I rolled 6 minutes. I can wait 6 fucking minutes. I need a drink though. But my point being is, if we the people don't move into action and pick up our crosses, our burdens, our responsibilities, our obligations to this world, and if we don't get our shit in order, and if we don't start being the people that we were meant to be, and not the people that this system has designed and created and manipulated us to be, and we're resisting, but we're not quite sure what we're resisting to. What you're resisting to is the dogma of the people around you who are telling you to be something that you're not, or you don't have the confidence just yet. So this is how all these diagnoses comes in. So I've said this before, borderline personality is somebody that has no hobbies, interests, and doesn't know who they are. Bipolar is somebody who is very, very, very creative, who has lots of artistic skills about them, probably an entrepreneur, and can't quite break through the confidence seal and bounces in between. Somebody who has isolated themselves from society, who believes that the sociopath, things like that, just got a lot of trust issues. And somebody who is narcissistic has basically been so scarred by trauma that they just, project left, right, and centre. All of this is done by trauma. As a human being, and this doesn't come from psychology or anything, I'm just a vessel for the Lord, and he speaks, and I just get feel really drained later on. I'm like, ah. And hang on, I just came out. I'm going to go back. So basically, if we don't accept that there is a spiritual world that exists around us, we will lose the light that exists in this world. And the spiritual world that exists above us or around us or within us, okay, then, that orb, that perspective, that realm, we are not just the only realm that exists. There's 33 dimensions that we even know about, you know what I mean? And even more than that, when you were taught science in school, you probably had Bunsen burners and stuff like that, where people at private school were literally going to on trips to the Northern Lights, and were learning some things from a whole different perspective. What you've got to understand is, we the human beings, it's not correct to say that we only use 20% of our brain. That's not it. We actually use the majority of our brain, but our brain is not developed enough. And because you've pretty much all been injected, including myself on some of them, not all of them, because I actually argued on some of them. Basically here you have what's called your pineal gland. And your pineal gland here is pretty much your whole thing to the whole new dynamics. And what they do with a lot of these injections, and what they do with a lot of stuff when you're born as well, is vitamin B12 pretty much reproduces your body, and it is your own self-healing. You already have DMT in your brain. You already have cannabinoids in your brains. These natural things that government, society, the 1% don't necessarily want you to understand, is that you are bigger and mightier than you could ever know. There is a bigger picture than just your cellular little life and your little getting up every day to go to work to keep your bills going and making sure there's food on the table. And there is a bigger picture than that, and they don't want you to understand what some people call the secret, some people call God, some people call you know, different things and stuff like that. And I'm not pagan, I'm not from New Agey or anything like that. I've had to crawl on my fucking knees and be in situations that I have had to just ask for mercy and forgiveness, because I cannot undo and fathom and understand how I've got myself into this mess. And the clarity that I get is wonderful and beautiful. And I've been to places when, especially when I was pregnant, in pregnancy with the manager, who I think is coming through. Sorry, Aaron. He's not. I mean, I hemorrhaged and had a transfusion with Aaron. That's what brought social services in with Faith in the first place. Just because make sure the kids were okay, and preparation for the fact that I might have not made it through the birth. But I went through an experience in the book, different stuff. But I went through an experience where I completely went unconscious, and I saw, you know, my son's angels making sure his blanket was over him. And I know full well that Stephen walked into the door, looked at me, walked straight back out, left him in the crib. Nurses came in. I was watching it. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, thinking somebody's got to put a blanket over my baby. He's moved his blanket off, and I'm in the room, like literally, you know, hemorrhaging after I'd given birth, and I'm looking at my son over in the crib, and he's laying there open, and all I'm wanting to do is wrap these blankets around him, and I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to sort of see if I can move, and nobody's coming in, and I can't ring the button, and I'll go whoop, and as I come out, the door is completely closed. Nobody is in the room with me, and I literally see a shadow, not even a shadow, more than like a sliver, and his blankets, and him moving in and him being tucked up, and I just went. And it's crazy as people think I was, and they say I was high on something. I know full well my son did not have a blanket on, and then he did, and everybody kept saying to me, "Nobody's been in the room, Kelly. Nobody's been in the room." So tell me how my son had a blanket put around him. And he needed that blanket, and I couldn't be there for him, and nobody else was. And as I was constantly praying, please, please, please let my son be okay. Please let my son be okay. Somebody please make sure my son's okay. You know, and yeah, you know, they lost me 3 times. But we know this with EDS, that's why we have a high risk pregnancy plan. So anyway, I've gone over my hour. And this morning I've talked about menstruation, waking up covered in blood, and how I believe that mothers are being misdiagnosed because of premenstrual tension and normal hormonal stuff with pregnancy and birth, and the fact that we don't give ourselves time to heal, and as mothers we just burn out. So do fathers. And the fact that rather than dealing with all of the policing and everything in government, that we should focus more on our self-governing as individuals. My arrow is now being moved. But we should also, you know, as some will drift and travel, and some people will want to build communities. And we live in a community that if every single person loved thy neighbour as the Bible taught, and we treated those as we wish to be treated ourselves, then we should be living in pretty cool communities, like really like community spirit driven, do you know what I mean? And that's not happening. And the reason that's not happening is because you're all looking towards government to do everything for us, and government isn't going to be the ones that save our asses, and the Queen certainly wasn't saved for the way that things were. And there's Christians out there that say that we have to obey and follow government because the Bible tells us to, and to be a rebel is actually considered to be work of the devil. Now, strictly, that is true. However, he did also state that when it was corrupted and all that sort of stuff, that we have a right to stand up to that. And right now, we are under no government whatsoever. In fact, council shouldn't even be at work, because strictly in the UK, it is bugger off the Benidorm season. And it's holiday season. It's time where children are at school, parents go home, the factories close down, the industry shuts down, and only the emergencies stay in place. But we don't live under that society anymore, and the old system has gone. everything that you understand to do with income support, housing benefit, job seekers, and everything by now has gone, should have gone. So next bill that comes in, I hope everybody's been moved over. I need to go and check a couple of dates and to see what they're doing about everything, because don't forget, a new MP has taken over. Government policy is meant to be rolled out over 4 years. It takes about 18 months to create a change, and then to implement the change is instant once everybody accepts it. The problem that government have is you've got to get the whole of Great Britain on side, and then in order to get the whole of Great Britain on side, we as a society have to work in co-symbioticness with everybody who runs their own countries, nations and islands. And that's a really difficult thing to do. Hence why we have the United Nations and the EU and things like that. So anyway, life is bigger than ourselves. There's a bigger picture going on. Children are being trafficked. I actually wanted to tell you how Startup and Challenge Britain was created, but I was meant to actually just be a little bit small introduction, but these lives are never scripted, never pre-planned. I don't ever have an agenda of what I'm going to talk about. All I know is you've got to write your fucking submission, so have I. Everybody that is affected by social care in any way, shape or form must answer these questions and submit them in. And if you are part of my network, then you're going to take direct action on this and flip it over to an affidavit. If you are part of the normal process, then please just go and submit your feelings on the process to do with the children's care services. We're all affected by it in some way or form, even if it's just that our children go to care with somebody in foster care and we feel that we have something to say, or we actually give a damn about the rest of the world and how people are suffering right now. And I can't sit back and watch so many people suffering and struggling, labelled with depression, suppression, all of these labels that psychology has given you. And the fact that these psychologists are using this as a way to take your children away from you. And actually, psychology isn't aware that this is happening. We had the head of psychology at the adoption, one of the other inquiries actually, and she stood and she apologised profusely on the grounds of psychology that they were not aware that their psychological reports were having this decision made in court. They believe that counteracting psychological reports or medical reports will be brought in, and it wasn't actually part of the formal proceedings. And now they understand this is happening. They are trying to do something about it, and psychology are trying to understand that actually we as human beings experience trauma. We go through pain and we go through pleasure. It's how we deal with it is what that matters. And before I go, I just wanted to say one thing to you, and I've said it a couple of times before, but I really want to cement it into you, is you are not as what has happened to you. You are not the experiences around you. You are not the environment that you are in. I am not this one-bedroom flat. I am not my clapped-out £300 car. And I'm not the environment that I'm in. It doesn't define me. It's not who I am. And even if I was in a farm with a nice, car and things like that, that still doesn't define me. It still doesn't make me who I am. It shouldn't change me. You cannot change people. You cannot change what people think about you. You cannot change what's happened to you. You can change what they think about you, it's whether you care to do so or not. But if you're not going to do that, then you can't change it. You can only change what things mean to you. And there comes to a point in your life where you stop justifying yourself to everybody and you start just getting on and living the life that you have. If you're artistic, paint, because that's what you are given your tools and your gifts to do. If you want to express yourself through music, then do that. However you choose to express yourself is your God's gift to the world. You've just got to find that gift and give it to the world. And within that, you will find the comfort of who you are and what you're about. I really love doing what I'm doing. I don't like going through the trauma that I'm going through over a few different things, and I'm battling. And I explained to somebody today, he said, you know, you've got to remember that you're a director of a business. And I said, yeah, but before that, I'm a mother in grief on a roller coaster, and I have every right to go through that experience. And the people around me have to understand that I'm going through that, and that I can be traumatized over. Even just before I go, something quite interesting happened when me and Dean were playing catch with the kids on the field. And as I was going to get the ball, I could see what I thought was a Jelly Tots packet. And I'm seeing it going, please don't be a Jelly Tots packet, please don't be a Jelly Tot. Ah, fantastic, it was a Skittles packet. And carried on playing catch. Now, had that had been a Jelly Tots packet, all I would have thought about was lovely lots and lots like Jelly Tots. And that's what we always used to say to Aaron and Faith, lovely lots and lots like Jelly Tots. I was able to control that trauma because it was a relief that it wasn't what I thought it was. But if initially I'd seen it, it could put me into any form of state of shock or pain or whatever. And it's really difficult for me. And also when people see me as well, like if I go down in the garden, sometimes people think I'm really ignorant because I'll go and sit on my own by another chair when people are together. And that's not because I'm alienating myself, but that's because if I find it very difficult to come into somebody else's energy. And sitting down there is somebody very negative. And this is why I need you to focus on what I'm saying with the intention. What you resist, you persist. When you give energy to something that you don't want in your life, you constantly give it the energy to grow and give you exactly what you don't fucking want. When you stand against something, you give the power to what you don't want. When you stand against child abuse, you are directly responsible for the next child who's going to be abused, whether you like it or not, because that's what that energy and power does. Everything is perpetual transmutation. Everything is energy. Everything is connected to everything, even your thoughts. Your thoughts can literally empower magnets to work in the same way to contract your muscles as if you were physically running a race, if you were an Olympic athlete. You can take a rocket, I bet whether we've actually been to Mars, but you can precisely plan that. You can build a house from a drawing and from plans. You are more capable of doing so much more than what you are now because you are living in a place where right now you are suppressed or depressed or labelled or down here. And you have to shake that off and get rid of all of that and just stand up tomorrow and just go and be and do what you love. Don't let money be an object. Don't let people be an object. Just you, and do what you love and expand from you. And from that, it will bring you around the right people and around the right stuff. So I am asking any parent who is under long-term foster care right now, if you want to listen to something that I'm asking you to do, then you've got to get yourself away from any person who hates social workers, and you've got to learn to love the team around you and select the right support network for you, whether it be through your family, your friends, your community, all of the services. And you have to show how you are utilizing that. And if it means that you want to re-educate and do it through this YouTube or do it through home learning or university, it's whichever one you really want to do. But you can just wake up tomorrow and go, hey, you know, I really want to turn that piece of wood right there into something else, and then I'm going to sell it on YouTube, on eBay or something. You know, unfortunately, we are in money right now, and there's no point even challenging money right now. All you've got to do is challenge the meaning to that money, and that money is an investment into yourself. Money is nothing more than a piece of paper for exchange of time and service. That is all it is. Have I got any money? Okay. A little bit of money. I think I have about £4 or £5 left. This pound right now has no value whatsoever fucking ever in the EU. This pound here right now has fucking no value. It is just a pound. It is a pound for a pound. As simple as that. It is not a pound for £1.10. It's just a pound. If you understand exchange rates and how interest inflation and stuff like that works. I, for one, haven't got my head around investment banking right now, but I will one day. I would rather have an accountant that deals with this stuff for me. However, are you worth £1 an hour? £2 an hour? I haven't got any more. Oh, I think I have another one. Oh, yes, see? That's 250p's. That there makes £1. And £1, there is exchange for same thing. Yes, we. I don't know what fucking accent that was, but anyway, you're worth £3. Maybe. I have some more. Aha! I have another £1. So you're worth £4. 20, 40, 60, 80, 1. I have £1 in 20p's. That makes £5. £5. Hang on. 20, 30, 40, 45, 46. £5, 46. Oh, hang on. I'm growing here. £5, 46. £5, 47. £5, 48, 49. £5, 50. 51. 52, 53. 63. £5, 63. What would you do for £5, 63 an hour every day? And how much could you live? Oh, look at that. Would you get up tomorrow and go and work for £5, 63 an hour? It's your choice. What is it really? So if I said to you right now that I needed something moved out of my car, my storage unit, and I'd pay you an hour, well, how much is that job worth? And how much should I pay an hour? Because I actually pay £10 an hour. If anyone does a job for me, I'll pay £10 an hour minimum. It's simple as that, unless it's a tough project. Any employee of mine has always had £10 an hour, even when they were carers. I still pay, well, in fact, back then it was £8 an hour, and I put it up to £10 an hour. So anyway, the question is, how much are you worth? What is your worth? What do you believe that you're worth? And when you get up tomorrow, where would you want to put your time and effort? And who is it that you actually want to help? I'd actually right now like to help people who have children in long-term foster care. Until we beat the system and get this class action in, there's nothing that I can do for people who have had children forcefully adopted. I can get you into contact, and I can get you, probably push for open contact and get your letterbox contact, things like that. And yes, I could probably help you get it annulled, but it would take a lot of my time, and I'm not willing to charge anybody for my time, if that means anything. I don't think somebody should have to sit down with me and work out how much my hourly rate. Don't forget, an hourly rate for me, I could do it over the phone, but I've got 2 children, so I would need childcare if I was travelling. Hence why a lot of people in businesses claim for car tax, transportation, hotel bills, all that stuff, because with jobs comes travel, or you work in your area. But I would then have to have an office then has electricity and blah, 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 and overheads and blah, 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 blah. Even a charity has to start within £5 So the challenge for me is I either work for free, or I get my book written and I sell my book and then work free, which is what I plan to do. But you can either sell your time for an hourly rate, or you can sell a product. And that's what I want you guys to learn to do, product creation. And if you can create product creation, then you can create a way out of your thing, even if it's that you need to raise 150,000 for a legal team to go and get your kids. And you could do that. If you could pay 150,000, if I could pay 150,000 per night, I'll get my kids back, simple as that. They work for me then, they do what I say, and that's how much that team would cost to do that. and that's how much the court time would cost. And so yeah, 150,000. So if you could make 150,000 of product creation, then you've got enough for that. And if you wanted that 150,000 because you wanted to purchase a home or land or whatever, or say you decided you wanted a million, and you could achieve a million. In fact, Jack Canfield achieved a million with his book within 6 months. And that was just writing 7 success principles. So anyway, I've gone like 20 minutes over my hour. I need to start knocking these down to 40 minutes, to be honest, and then doing small little interval ones. I've just broken my thing that I keep over my ring. And I can't go and make a coffee, and I'm going to go have some apple juice. But from today's live, I just hope that you can take from it that we have a right to stand up for ourselves when injustices have happened to us. And unfortunately, until that injustice happens to somebody else, they don't necessarily understand it. But we as a community understand each other because we're going through similar traumas and experiences. And we can't keep fragmented. We have to come together, and we have to come together through this child inquiry. And we have to be the force and message now, because there's no point ranting to people out there about this. All we can do now is build stronger, harder, faster team. And I keep saying every year that we get stronger, harder and faster. But from that, but now it needs to come together. So all of the anti, you can still stand strong. You don't want to be anti, you just still stand strong. And we need to move to families reunited. We need to stand there and go, we are asking to be reunited with our families. We are asking for our children to be reunited with us. We are asking for this, and as we've proven through XR, direct action works. Get off your fucking asses, go to bed, rest, have a really, really, really lovely day. Get up tomorrow, either join the Yellow Jackets or get out and do something in your community. By putting on the yellow jacket and serving the community, go down, even if you want to, go down and pick some litter up off the rivers and go and help somebody, or go and do something for someone tomorrow that they can't do themselves. And if you see a mum like me struggling tomorrow trying to get a unit out and into the storage units, maybe you can give her an hour of your time or help, and just help her lift her, and don't try and get her into bed because she's a struggling mother, not a freaking, play-by-play toy. Or maybe there's an old person sitting in a garden who can't quite get his battery to get him down to the river, that you could maybe help in some way. I don't know, maybe you could just go and flick your legs in the water, go find some water or some sand or some greenery and just appreciate nature for the day. Just take the day out and appreciate nature, even if it's just a piece of mildew that is coming off of a tree, that you just take the time to just look at it and just take a photograph of it or something, or find a bumblebee that's around. And if we wouldn't exist without bumblebees, by the way, that's what gives us our oxygen. It's not just trees. So if we didn't have bumblebees, we wouldn't have repollination. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. It's Friday night. I'm going to go and chill out for a bit. And I'm watching tonight. I'm on a bit of a marathon, by the way. So I've watched Mike Tyson's film Fist of Fury, and No Retreat and No Surrender. And I'm going on a bit of a marathon of martial art films, because they make me feel really good and really mighty and really powerful, and like I can fucking kick ass. So that's what I'm doing for the rest of the night. It will probably be maybe a bit rocky or something. I'm meant to be winding down, but I like to go to bed feeling really good and making sure tomorrow, I know I'm going to wake up feeling like shit. So I like to go to bed on a really positive note, and those sort of films really do it for me. And yeah, winner takes all over odds and all of that sort of stuff. But you've got to be mentally and physically strong. So take back your heart, mind and soul. And tomorrow, get up and kick some fucking ass. And I will see you in the morning. See you later. Good night and God bless. And to anybody who has written in the comments and stuff like that, please remember I'm autistic and I get overwhelmed and get lost and stuff, so I do take time to read them. I don't always like and comment, because I don't really want, I don't know, maybe I should interact and stuff, I don't know, but I don't want to get overwhelmed, and I don't very well. Here it's amazing, but if you all stood in front of me right now, I'd probably run out of the room screaming and crying because, you know, I'd probably be a nervous wreck. But anyway, I shall see you all soon. And again, I've now got my 2 tickets before we go. So if you can, like literally before the 30th, and you live local or you're willing to travel, then get one of these anyway, even before the 30, before the 31st. So in fact, I need to cancel my meeting because I've booked it on the 31st. So up to the 31st, literally free for Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, Chesington, Shrek Adventures, Warwick Castle, the Dungeons, Madame Tussauds, Sea Life, Legoland, and the London Eye. In fact, you could all meet me at the London Eye. We can go on the London Eye. But what I was thinking was going to Thorpe Park. So if there is people out there and you do want to, then give me a boot and give me a buzz. And I've no petrol money. Literally that £5 something is all the money I've got left until the 18th. And fudge and fruit and some vouchers somewhere. Thank you to Healthy Start vouchers. That's Mother's Needed. So I will catch you all tomorrow if I want to, and if I not, might commit suicide by then, or I might have a breakthrough. Who knows? Tomorrow is another day. See you soon. Bye bye. Oh, you never flick out quickly, girl. Bye.